And here we are in game number 2, or excuse me, game number 1 of series number 2 of day number 3 of TSL number 3 of the round of 32. It is QXC taking on Genius, whose team is also MVP, so if you're confused, this is not the player we just saw switching races. This is actually Genius, and despite his name being Genius, he doesn't play that creative style, plays more a manly style like we saw out of Adele Scott. We are here on Teldream Altar, and here is our Korean Protoss spawning in the top right as the blue Protoss, as Protosses do. It's MVP Genius. His opponent recently moved over to FXO in the red Terran. It is QXC dropping that first depot, and in these opening seconds, I just want to remind everyone, if you like poker and free money and free trips to Korea, go to teamliquid.net/raffle and sign up, and maybe you could be a winner, and maybe you could meet the casting Archon themselves.
I'm going to be super jealous for whoever wins that. Like you said, I do remember the thread from last year. I was red with envy, but anyway, I was at green. I don't know what color I was, but I was super envious. Anyways, this one is going to be Teldream Altar, as we said, which is a huge macro-style map that I think will definitely favor the Korean player Genius here. QXC loves to be aggressive. In every game I've cast on my channel, it always seems like he's super aggressive, relying on trying to get the right unit combination and just microing his way to victory. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it does not. So I think Genius will probably be the favorite to win this going in, as we've mentioned before, but really, I mean, anyone can make an upset here. We've seen huge upsets in the TSL. So far, to me, it seems like this tournament is the tournament of upsets, so it's going to be QXC's chance, his last chance, really, to advance through this tournament. I think game number 1 is going to be a very crucial game, not only in the mental stages, but also if Genius starts getting the momentum in his favor, especially on this map, it's going to be difficult for QXC to come back and take the series.
You know, I'm looking at QXC's build order, and it's a little bit strange. He actually dropped a 15 refinery. You can see the refinery not yet complete, whereas Genius has already mined 50 Vespene gas out of his assimilator. So that would have, you know, if that would have made me believe he wants to go for a faster expansion, but actually no, dropping a second barracks here and no add-ons, not using that gas in any way yet, as he's now at 30 gas. Really waiting to see if he's going to follow this up with a factory or a tech lab add-on. Meanwhile, the probe for Genius going to move in, spot the Marine, and going to slip right by QXC, apparently microing his SCV to scout as much as he could. In Genius's base, missed microing that Marine a little bit, and actually keeping one Marine at the ramp so that additional units don't run in, and dropping a reactor first. So wants to play a bit of a safe opening here with this 2 barracks, 1 reactor.
It's really surprising to me how long this probe has been alive. QXC already not seeming to play to the best of his ability. He's forced to bring that second Marine to kill his probe. Looks like he will take it out, or the probe may just escape out of their node. Does snipe it, but I was watching that when that probe actually went in there, and all the Marines just kind of ran right past it. So that is not a good start whatsoever. Genius is going to scout the base, see exactly what's going on. I'm going to look at the vision of Genius for a second. You can see he spotted not only both the barracks, but also the add-ons that were on the way, which is going to tell him exactly the type of build order that QXC is going for. He's just now sending out an SCV. Doesn't look like it's going to be for an expansion, as it's going to just scout out now. But I mean, already I feel like the momentum's in Genius's favor. Just a small thing like letting that probe in there has already given away basically what he's doing. It's kind of like a free observer or a free scan. So QXC needs to make sure that he spices it up a little bit, doesn't go super predictable build, but for now just still has the two racks with the upgrades on the way. Looks like he's going to move out right now.
Yeah, we've got concussive shells just about to complete, and that appears to be his timing. He's going to move out to match. Meanwhile, Genius has been chrono boosting out his warp gate technology. It's at about 80% as he's added on these 2 gateways. Meanwhile, he's only got a Sentry, a Stalker, and a Zealot. That can deal with initial infantry units if microed properly. But if you get hit by 1 concussive shell on that Stalker and try to retreat, that can be a big deal. QXC looks like he wants to be aggressive just to make space for his expansion command center. Wants to push Genius back just a little bit to keep him nervous so that he doesn't attack. But QXC may have missed his timing here as he moves forward. Does hit the Zealot with the concussive shell, hits it yet again, hits it a 3rd time, and looks like he's going to be able to take this 1 Zealot out, but he does not want to continue attacking. A lot of sentries out, Guardian Shield going up, he's going to get completely force fielded. 1 force field, all that's necessary. Okay, but he's going to drop 3, and that's going to shut down this early push. QXC needs to run away with this Marine. Looks like he's trying to micro. Whoa, he's actually getting a lot of damage here. I'm really surprised he's continuing to push, taking out a lot of sentries. This is a big deal early on.
Especially since QXC kind of missed the best opportunity right when those 3 warp gates finished. Genius was able to warp in the additional units and then hold this off. But QXC, there was a time there where Genius was only on 1 gateway for this entire time, just chrono boosting out units. Now this last Marauder in the center is going to get taken out, which may convince QXC that he needs to turn around. That's exactly what's happening. The stim pack has been started, only halfway completed. Again, since the last patch, it does take much longer. And really, there was a nice window there. I don't know if QXC realized it, where Genius was only on 1 gateway, and instead of attacking right then, he sat in the middle, waited for a couple more reinforcements, and then the timing window there was lost with the good micro. However, there is an expansion on the way for QXC, so following it up with more macro, as well as a factory and a 3rd Rax.
Yeah, you know, it's really easy to sit in our lofty observer thrones and criticize QXC for missing that timing, but there was really no way for him to know. He wanted to reinforce with a few more units. I mean, if Genius had been chrono boosting out units out of that warp gate, or excuse me, out of that gateway before adding on gateways, then he could have been completely crushed by just having an additional stalker in there. So playing it safe, I can't fault him for that. And he really did get a lot of value out there. He's getting his expansion up quicker. If we look at the income tab, he is behind in harvesters, but way ahead in income, just as a function of having that 2nd mule to drop. Genius has a probe sitting by his 3rd base, so maybe he's got plans to take, or excuse me, sitting by his 3rd expansion. Maybe he's got plans to take that. Looks like not, as the SCV just swings around, and Genius has followed up with a 3 gate and adding on the Robo after expansion. So very, very safe, standard bread and butter build here out of the Korean Protoss.
Genius now at a 6 probe advantage. He was 8 ahead there before the last 2 SCVs spawn. So Genius is in a nice spot. I think he can really take his 3rd whenever he decides to. Just needs to make sure that he's able to hold off this 3 racks pressure. The factory getting lifted up now just to add the reactor onto the starport. Going to be getting out those double medevacs. So once again, from our Terran player, we're going to be seeing Marine Marauder medevac, something that we saw not do very well as MVP against the Protoss player at Del Scout. So can Genius do a repeat of that and be able to stomp this? We're just going to have to wait and see. The Robo is now completed, and we also had the robotics bay on the way for that Colossus tech. So QXC, is he going to attack before that Colossus tech is done? Maybe really difficult here, just looking at the army positioning of Genius at the choke of his natural. That's almost perfect. You can cut that army in half as it tries to run up the ramp, and supply count showing 77 to 75 here. So I mean, the battle, once it happens, could go either way, but a massive worker advantage for our Protoss.
Yeah, and this is a build that we've actually seen become more popular lately. The very, very quick medevac after expansion. Unfortunately, I believe those medevacs just flew right over an observer, so Genius may be aware of it. But it hasn't really been used like this too often, usually used in the front. Meanwhile, it just adds some mobility. So you attack in the front, then if necessary you load up and drop in the back. QXC not using it like that. He's attacking in the front with 1 medevac, now going to drop on the high ground. Meanwhile, going to drop in the main with 3 Marauders and 2 Marines. Looks like Genius is going to try to deal with this harassment at his natural, and that's actually going to load up and get completely out of there. Oh, a couple force fields. Very nice by Genius, completely isolating that. The medevac taking him a long way around to get into the main base. He's really going to start dropping that and dealing some damage. Meanwhile, being quite aggressive is QXC, running that medevac, not taking additional damage. The drop has commenced in the main base. He's forced a few probes just to run away. Now going to go to work on pylons, now changing his mind to go to work on zealots. And the harassment has continued. QXC has the opportunity to load up and drop in the natural yet again. Looks like he wants to do that, but he's got to be careful as the Colossus is actually out now.
The micro of QXC has been pretty good so far, keeping the majority of his units alive. He was able to kill the gas on the left side. That's one downside about the expansion on this map, is that it's very easy to harass from the low ground. QXC continuing to drop units on the high and low ground here to try and do the harassment. Genius, though, has been able to hold it off without huge amounts of losses. He still has a slight probe advantage right now, and 1 medevac does go down, which is a huge deal, trapping 1 Marine as well with those force fields. So Genius able to hold this off perfectly. The drop is going to commence in the top right side once again, though. Could potentially snipe probes or the pylon on this warp gate. Instead decides to go for the warp gate itself. Don't think he's going to have time to kill that, and decides to stem and continue the harassment right there. And now, unfortunately for QXC, he had a few too many Marauders in there, and Genius replied to that by getting just the Zealots instead of warping in Stalkers to deal with it, as they do take that additional damage. So just looking at the Army size tab, during that, QXC did pull out a slight lead as far as the Army tab is concerned. Neither player has really taken a 3rd base quite yet. I think, though, that they can gear up in order to do that, and QXC having no upgrades. Same with Genius, just looking at the production tab, +1 air attack, so we could see a transition into a lot of Phoenix. There's already 2 in the top right.
Yeah, the 2 Stargates have completed for Genius. QXC dropping yet again, as his medevac is going to go down to those 2 Phoenixes, stimming in and trying to take out as many units as he can before those Marauders are taken out. But this transition into Colossus Phoenix is very difficult, especially with the +1. If you want to deal with it, you really need to get 2 starports with reactors, and as we go to QXC's base and look what he has, oh, what's this? 2 starports, 1 floating over to the reactor. So very nice transition to him. If you want to take this to the skies, you really need just so many Vikings because those Phoenixes do so well. The other way to deal with it, stay on the ground, focus on EMP, and we can see QXC doing both, getting a Ghost Academy. So I really like his response to this.
The build that Genius is going is really good. It's going to come down to, can the Marines kill the Phoenix or can the Stalkers kill the Vikings, as it will come down to the air superiority when the big battle happens. I would expect a pretty giant battle here because the Protoss wants to keep his army grouped together as long as possible, possibly using the Phoenix just to delay any sort of attack from QXC, and the Observer of Genius is actually sitting directly over this army. The rally point there showing exactly what, I mean, it's basically showing his hand. This is the units he's getting, and since there's so many Vikings on the field, I mean, Genius can only assume that there is a double starport. And here comes the Phoenix harassment right now. Could attack the expansion. There is no missile turrets or Marines here to delay this. The Mules are vulnerable, although they only have about a fourth of their time remaining. And you can see Genius picking up both Mules, doesn't want them to get any more minerals there, and then is going to fly away. This will probably prompt QXC to get some sort of air defense, as the harassment will continue until he's able to get it.
Yeah, I'm really surprised he's not reacting with Vikings. He's just kind of sitting around and letting it happen. But QXC needs to be careful not to build too many SCVs if he scouts at third base. It looks like there was actually a drop in the main base yet again of Genius. QXC dropping a few units there, just being annoying. And this is really limiting Genius's mobility. He has to stay in his main base. And it's really isolated him in his natural. He hasn't been able to put up his third base. Just getting out more Colossi has stopped Phoenix production here, and he's starting to get broke. His main is really drying up. So it looks like he just wants to make a ton of units and have one fell swoop and try to kill QXC like that. Looks like Phoenix is coming into the natural yet again. He's going to fly over this missile turret. Let's see if he commits to the harassment. Yes, indeed, he does, taking 2 SCVs out. Not losing the Phoenix, just losing the shields on there. But QXC, I'm not sure if he's aware of what's going on. No, looks like he's not aware that there is no third base for Genius. If he was aware of that, he'd probably slow down, maximize his army, and know that Genius is just basically going for 2 base attack. That's essentially all in.
Yeah, he really is just going to rely on this attack right now. He needs to cause damage or at least destroy the army of QXC, as QXC does have that third base. He's had it for a while. You can see our Protoss player isn't even producing anything right now, as he's kind of reached where he wants to be. 2 more Phoenix just now starting up, and QXC does have a lot of resources that he needs to make sure to spend, because he's going to have a difficult time dealing with so many Phoenix in the air. While he does have a lot of Vikings, that is going to give the Colossus, I believe there are 4 now on the field, that's going to give them the time they need to basically kill the ground army of QXC. So right. QXC does have a nice expansion. It's way ahead and fully saturated there, but is his army composition going to be what he needs? Just looking at the army size tab, they're actually tied 169 for both, and the units tab does show a massive SCV advantage for QXC. Thus, his army is a little bit weaker, so this is going to be Genius's ideal time to attack, and hopefully for his sake he will expand during that. Otherwise, if he loses this army, he's not going to be able to re-macro it up.
So there's 2 things to watch when the big battle inevitably happens. QXC needs to use his Vikings to target Colossi, not the Phoenixes. Second one, he needs to hit the majority of the army with an EMP as the Phoenixes come in, do a little bit of harassment. You know, that's not really that big of a deal because QXC has this third base. That's essentially just opening up supply that he can fill with units. QXC gonna scan and try to do a snipe on the Colossi. Shield's all gone, and it gets sniped. 2-shotted there by the Vikings. That's a big deal, as the magic number for Colossi are 4. He's now dropped that number down to 3. He's got +1 on these Phoenixes still, but Genius not taking a third base. Looks like he's just going to go to 200 and then attack. And here come the Phoenixes, catching 1 Viking, catching 2. It looks like they've got 3 kills so far. QXC needs to get out of there as Genius is doing too much damage to these Vikings.
Genius able to attack up the ramp here now. EMP is going to be softening the entire army, though all the shields are gone. The Zealots are running into a meat grinder. However, the Phoenix are still in a fairly large number, able to focus down these Vikings with ease. And it's hard to tell who's going to win this battle, but the army on the ground has been destroyed. The Vikings landing to kind of negate the fact that Phoenix even exists, but they're going to pick up everything and just do as much damage as possible. Not actually enough Phoenix there to kill that quickly. And it looks like QXC going to be moving out to the right side now. I do want to look at the army size tab. QXC having a massive advantage after that battle, but his army is getting picked off by these Phoenix. Enough enough energy stored in there to just do massive amounts of damage. Marines over here are going to be able to push this back. But QXC was slightly out of position in that battle, so Genius had the best angle possible. But just look at the army size tab. If QXC can push this, he will be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, QXC completely has this, just running up, stimming, getting picked up a lot by the Phoenix's Graviton Beam, and a lot of Zealots being warped in, actually, to deal with QXC's bio-heavy army, and landed Vikings being lifted up by Phoenixes. That's just hilarious. So although QXC just donated a large portion of his army, losing about 30 supply, it really doesn't matter, as there's nothing really left for Genius. He's not taking a third base. Look at the minerals in his natural. They're at under 300 there. He's just continuing to make units off 2 bases. QXC has defended the first big attack. If he just plays defensively and continues to get EMPs and basically use his units cost effectively, he should comfortably take this game.
Now, really, the only threat is going to be those Phoenix in the air. You can see that QXC is deciding to switch to more Marines and Marauders. I think he's going to need a lot of anti-air. Otherwise, those Phoenix can pick up almost every single one of those Marauders because they are in such a healthy amount. And also, more Phoenix on the way for Genius. I think that he's going to rely on his micro of those Phoenix because Phoenix can be either very cost-effective if you're able to micro them well and pick up all the units that you need to, or they can make your army extremely weak if you lose them by misclicking. So right now, it does look like QXC is sitting in the middle of the map. This army may be a little bit vulnerable here, but since he does have the tower, he'll know exactly where Genius is. He actually has 3 towers, so the map is basically cut in half with vision, and Genius just now getting his 3rd base up while QXC has a planetary fortress on the way on the center left side. Harassment's going to continue over here. No missile turrets hold it off. So as you said, Chill, as long as he plays defensively and doesn't mess up in a huge way, he should be okay, especially now that he has Ghost still in pretty good numbers, and that's just a lot of EMPs, and he just needs to make sure not to mess up the battle.
Yeah, I was really nervous that he wasn't producing the number of ghosts that's going to be necessary for this battle, but looks like he has jumped on ghost production. He's got 1 in his main army, and he's adding 2 more right now, continuing with the upgrades. QXC is at 2 upgrades. Meanwhile, Genius is at 3 goose eggs, so that is never a good place to be. I wouldn't mind seeing QXC adding in a Thor, actually, just to snipe on the Phoenixes, deal a little bit of damage, keep them away. It looks like he's continuing with this bio-heavy composition. He's got a few Vikings mixed in, continuing to produce Vikings, and he's got that 4th base up now with Planetary Fortress, a bunch of turrets, and continuing to add command centers. Looks like this may be the final battle as Genius is pushing forward. No decides to run back. He has, to his credit, established his 3rd base. So that is nice. He's no longer all in, but he's at a bit of a deficit here, a 20 supply deficit going into this big battle, and a big upgrade deficit, which is huge.
Looking at the supply counts, 168 to 155. Here comes a battle right now. Looks like Genius is actually sniping a couple of units here. He was able to kill several Marines as well. And I thought for a second there that QXC stemmed. He did not, so this army is still at that full HP. Still this Observer, actually just getting sniped there right when I was drawing attention to it. But basically Genius knows exactly what he's going against. He seems to be comfortable. But again, the upgrade advantage for QXC could play a huge role. This army for QXC doesn't seem as devastating as it could be because a lot of his supply advantage is actually in the worker count. And it looks like he's going to engage right here, trying to focus down the Colossus, but there's so many Phoenix. Are the Phoenix going to pick up units? Force Field's going to be trapping units on the left side. The battle is commencing on a ramp, which is going to favor the Protoss here, although I think he's going to have to back out here. Although the Force Field's doing a lot more damage I thought. The ground army, though, has gone towards QXC's favor. Air superiority is heavily favoring Genius, though, and he's got to pick up the remainder like they're scraps and just take them out. I do want to look at the units lost tab here. QXC actually behind, but remember, he does have an economy advantage. However, he did not win that battle decisively, so he needs to be careful here and make sure he can re-macro up. Genius probably going to be aggressive to try and prevent QXC from getting that army again.
Yeah, QXC really needs to drop an EMP on these Phoenixes. That's really going to shut down their usefulness. Phoenix is now flying over to the 4th base. They're going to rudely run into 4 turrets. 1 Phoenix down. 2nd Phoenix also getting taken down. So Genius really wants to keep that Phoenix number up. A scan being dropped just so QXC is aware of where is this Protoss army. Genius not taking a 4th base. He has the potential to take it now. It looks like he just does. Oh, okay. Now he's making that 4th base. But still behind in the count. He's at 116 supply. QXC at 143. QXC really just needs to drop 1 big money EMP, either on the majority of the army or on the Phoenixes, and that will allow him to take the final battle. His upgrade advantage is just ridiculous as he's completed +3 attack now.
He also has +1 attack for his Vikings. I mean, the Phoenix do as well. And Genius just getting his first upgrade at 27 minutes into the game. Again, not where you want to be. Looks like QXC is going to be chasing this army, softening it on the right side. It will snipe a Colossus there as well as a couple of the sentries. The force field is going to be the only thing keeping Genius in this game, which is exactly what he's going to do right there. And it looks like the QXC is going to continue pushing as Colossus will go down as well. No, just barely surviving with 35 HP. The Phoenix, again, going to be saving Genius here. I can't help but agree with you, Chill, that one Thor in this army would have won him the game a long time ago. I do want to mention, though, that QXC has taken a 5th base, but he's just losing so many Marauders to these Phoenix that I really feel like these are the units that are keeping Genius in the game, and QXC needs to deal with them.
Yeah, but this is what happens when you play this Phoenix style. You barely win a battle, you get grinded down a little bit, you barely win a battle. I mean, look at the Backbone army for QXC, and look at the Backbone army for Genius. Well, there it is, this one Colossus sitting lonely at his choke point. So QXC has done well to completely wear it out. It's a shame that he missed with that EMP, but he's just going to drive into the third, and that is GG. Wow, so wow. QXC showing us that foreigners can take down Koreans. Just driving that point home, as we already found it out last game. But again, the harassment style that we saw he's famous for, but you know, when it doesn't kill someone or doesn't give you a big advantage, he's got a solid plan behind it. He knew how to deal with the Phoenixes, getting that second reactor starport, which was so key. EMPs left a little bit to be desired, but it was still good enough for him to take game one. And I'm actually a little bit disappointed with Genius's play there. He had all the time in the world to take that third base, but it looks like he was just set on his timing. You know, he wanted to make this amount of units on 2 bases and then attack. He didn't react to the situation at hand. QXC did a beautiful job of reacting to the situation at hand, and that's why the result goes in his favor.
I almost want to say that Genius may have felt too comfortable in that game because the timing of that third, as you mentioned, and the upgrades just way off. So it's got to be a wake-up call for sure here in game number 2. It will be Xel'Naga Caverns, but after game number 1, QXC, I mean, anytime you win a game, you're going to feel good. Anytime you win the first series against a top-tier Korean, you're feeling even better. But neither player can get comfortable here because both players are able to take a game off of each other, and we've seen QXC, I would consider a pretty big upset, but again, this is why he's considered one of the best Terran out there, and he plays at so many live events, so many tournaments, that he's probably getting more and more comfortable with his playstyle playing in a huge match like this. I mean, if you can knock out Genius in your first round, how good are you going to do for the rest of the tournament? So I'm just imagining everyone in their betting is just face palming after these games so far, but we'll see if in game number 2 if Genius can actually come back and win this series. So I am pretty excited. I can't believe the upsets. I feel like this is the tournament of the upsets so far, but got to hand it to QXC. Pretty solid play in that last game.
Well, this is the thing I've always said, that the StarCraft community kind of goes back and forth, like they really bandwagon. You know, someone gets a big name, everyone says he's so amazing, but it really takes a tournament like this to show that, wow, we're actually a lot closer than people think. And these unknown players, or unknown to many, really can bring it. So this is why it's so important to get into those TL Opens, grind your way through into the TSL. You have one breakthrough match. Suddenly, you know, people are knocking at your door for sponsorship and inviting you to these big lands and these big tournaments where you can continue to make a name for yourself. QXC, already a fairly big name, but after that big win, I feel like he's going to be even bigger. Husky, do you have any objections to getting this going with game number 2?
I do not. During the commercial, I'm going to try and down this liter of water because these last games have destroyed my voice, but I am super excited. I can't believe the upsets. I'm just getting more and more excited as we go through this tournament. We're not even halfway through today's games, So let's go ahead and go to the commercial break, and we'll see if there's another huge upset or if Genius can be like, wait a minute, I need to play much better than last game, so let's do this.